listening to the Holy Bible 1-Year Challenge with Master Storyteller Michael Wood, featuring the easy-to-read version and used by permission from Bible League International. Enjoy the show!
Hello everyone, welcome to day 351. We begin the book of Ezra. I'll be giving a detailed introduction in just a moment. We're also continuing in the book of Revelation. 6 out of the 7 seals have been opened. But when that 7th seal gets opened, there's silence in the heavens. Then slowly, the angels blow their trumpets and cataclysmic events occur. Now this is where we are in the area of much interpretation. When the Bible talks about a mountain falling out of the sky, which falls into the ocean and destroys a third of the marine life and all the ships. Well, how do we interpret that? Is that an event that is yet to come? Is it a nuclear missile? Perhaps if you read this in the medieval ages, you would think it was just a really big catapult of the biggest flaming rock you've ever seen. Maybe it's symbolic and it just means that the French Navy is going to sink into the ocean. Or maybe there's a really big, heavy, overweight barbarian who happens to love the ocean and he gets shot and falls down. The point is, many people have tried to interpret these events, but they are beyond comprehension. Should we take these as literal or more of a poetic symbolism? That just means times are going to be rough at the end of days. I'll let you see what happens when the seal opens. You'll hear all of the cataclysmic events, and especially the part about the locusts, who are merely around to torture people with their painful bites and stings. One thing is clear though, the elect, they do not get hurt by these locusts. So it seems that the elect are still around, watching everybody else get tortured by God's monstrous creations. But maybe we've got it all wrong, and they're just aliens that finally come down to visit us. I'll leave it up to your interpretation as we continue forward in the book of Revelations, starting in chapter 8. But first, let's check up on Ezra. If you enjoy the show, visit me at patreon.com/storymaster. You'll find the link in the description box below. By contributing as little as $1 per month, you will enable me to continue this ministry, and you'll get cool rewards too. Together, we're going to get through the Bible in 1 year. Let's get started. The Book of Ezra, an introduction. Ezra was a scribe for the Persian Empire. So what do scribes write about? Well, they take official records. This isn't a narrative approach where you're going to have dialogue and twists and turns of plot. This is going to be more journalistic or matter of fact. The scribe writes down important dates, times, numbers. They count things and write them down. They might record laws or things that a high official, in this case, the king of Persia, has to say. There's some crossover of timelines between Malachi, Ezra, and Nehemiah. It all takes place mostly after the people of the Lord have returned to the land and are ordered to build the temple of the Lord after they've been held captive by the Persians. Now understand, the Persians are still in charge. It's just that the Lord has spoken to the king of Persia, or different kings, should I say. And so when the people try to challenge the Jews, it goes back to scribes like Ezra, where they could look back and say, nope, God did say that the Jews need to rebuild the temple for God. As we begin in chapter 1, we see a little recording of what the king of the Persians says about letting the Israelites go to rebuild their temple. Then you get a detailed genealogy of which families left the confines of the Persian Empire to go accomplish this task. It made sense that the scribe Ezra would write things down such as this. They are official records. I think it's interesting to note later in chapter 2, when a particular family does not have written records, so they can't prove that they're worthy of being holy or temple workers. And so the head of the Jewish council goes to consult the Urim and Thummim, which is rather interesting. These are divine tools. We don't have accurate records as to how they are used. Some say they're sticks. Some say they are kind of like dice, with black dice and white dice. And they basically use these tools for divination. Some say they spell out different messages that the Lord has to say. And they're only used to make national decisions. Now, once the prophets came along, the use of the Urim and Thummim were no longer used, and they're not mentioned anytime. They seem to only be around during the beginning of the Lord's temple and the establishment of this new faith and religion. However, it is mentioned now during the rebuilding of the temple that they are reusing the Urim and Thummim to make divine decisions for the nation. And this is also the last time that the use of the Urim and Thummim are ever mentioned. But one thing you can get from this, it's not like the Jews are rebuilding a fashion mall. They're rebuilding something holy, a connection with the Lord, a connection with the supernatural. Let's get started. Ezra chapter 1. Cyrus helps the captives return. In the first year that Cyrus, king of Persia, began to rule, the Lord caused him to make an announcement. It was written down, and Cyrus ordered that it be read throughout his kingdom. This was done so that what the Lord had told Jeremiah years before would now happen. This was the announcement. From King Cyrus of Persia.
The Lord, the God of heaven, gave all the kingdoms on earth to me, and he chose me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in the country of Judah. If any of God's people are living among you, I pray that God will bless them. You must let them go to Jerusalem in the country of Judah. You must let them go and build the temple of the Lord, the God of Israel, the God who is in Jerusalem. And so, in every place where there are survivors of Israel, the men in that place must support these survivors. Give them silver, gold, animals, and other things. Give them gifts for God's temple in Jerusalem.
Then God caused many of his people to want to go to Jerusalem. These included the family leaders of the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, the priests and Levites, and many others. They all prepared to go and rebuild the Lord's temple. All their neighbors gave them many gifts. They gave them silver, gold, animals, and other expensive things. Their neighbors freely gave them all these gifts. Also, King Cyrus brought out the things that Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the Lord's temple in Jerusalem. Nebuchadnezzar had put these things in the temple where he kept his false gods. King Cyrus told Mithridath, the man in charge of his treasury, to bring those things out. So Mithridath brought them out to Sheshbazzar, the leader of Judah. This is what Mithridath brought out: 30 gold dishes, 1,000 silver dishes, 29 knives, 30 gold bowls, 410 silver bowls similar to the gold bowls, and 1,000 other dishes. Altogether, there were 5,400 things made from gold and silver. Sheshbazzar brought them all with them when the captives left Babylon and went back to Jerusalem. Ezra chapter 2, verses 1 through 67. The list of the captives who returned. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon had taken many people from Judah as captives to Babylon. They now returned to Jerusalem and other places in Judah, everyone to their own towns. These are the leaders of the people who returned: Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Reelaiah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispar, Bigvai, Rehum, and Baanah. And here is a list showing how many men returned in each Israelite family group. The descendants of Parash, 2,172. The descendants of Shephatiah, 372. The descendants of Arah, 775. The descendants of Pahath Moab of the family of Jeshua and Joab, 2,812. The descendants of Elam, 1,254. The descendants of Zattu, 945. The descendants of Zakkai, 760. The descendants of Bani, 642. The descendants of Babai, 623. The descendants of Azgad, 1,222. The descendants of Adonikam, 666. The descendants of Bigvai, 2056. The descendants of Adin, 454. The descendants of Ater, through the family of Hezekiah, 98. The descendants of Bezai, 323. The descendants of Jorah, 112. The descendants of Hashum, 223. The descendants of Gabar, 95. From the town of Bethlehem, 123. From the town of Netophah, 56. From the town of Anathoth, 128. From the town of Asmaveth, 42. From the towns of Kiriath Jearim, Kephirah, and Beerah, 743. From the towns of Ramah and Geba, 621. From the towns of Michmash, 122. From the towns of Bethel and Ai, 223. From the town of Nebo, 52. From the town of Magbish, 156. From the other town named Elam, 1,254. From the town of Haram, 320. From the towns of Lod, Hadid, and Ono, 725. From the town of Jericho, 345. From the town of Sanaa, 3,630. These are the priests who return, the descendants of Jedaiah, through the family of Jeshua, 973. The descendants of Emer, 1,052. The descendants of Pashur, 1,247. The descendants of Harim, 1,017. These are the people from the tribe of Levi, the descendants of Jeshua and Kadmiel, through the family of Hodaviah, 74. These are the singers, the descendants of Asaph, 128. These are the temple gatekeepers, the descendants of Shalom, Ater, Talman, Akub, Hatita, and Shobai, 139. These are the special temple servants, the descendants of Ziha, Hasupha, Tabiath, Keros, Seah, Padan, Lebanah, Hagabah, Akub, Hagab, Shalmai, Hanan, Gedel, Gahar, Reiah, Rezin, Nekoda, Gazam, Usa, Paseah, Basai, Asna, Meunim, Nephusim, Bakbuk, Hakupha, Harhur, Bazluth, Mahida, Harsha, Barkos, Sisera, Tamah, Neziah, and Hatipha. These are Solomon's servants whose descendants return: Sotai, Hasophereth, Peruda, Jala, Darkan, Gedel, Shephatiah, Hatil, Pokereth, Hazabaim, and Ami. The total of the descendants of the temple servants and of Solomon's servants, 392. These people came to Jerusalem from the towns of Tel Melah, Tel Harsha, Karub, Adon, and Amur. The descendants of Deliah, Tobiah, and Nekoda, 652. But none of these could prove that they were descendants from the family of Israel. There were also these three families of priests, the descendants of Hobiah, Hakaz, and Barzillai, who was given this name because he married a daughter of the Barzillai from Gilead. These three families searched for their family histories, but they could not find them, so they were disqualified from serving as priests. The governor ordered them not to eat any of the holy food until a priest could use the Urim and Thummim to ask God what to do. Altogether, there were 42,360 people in the group who returned. This is not counting their 7,337 men and women slaves. They also had 200 men and women singers with them. They had 736 horses, 245 mules, 435 camels, and 6,720 donkeys. Revelation chapter 8. The seventh seal. The Lamb opened the seventh seal. Then there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God. They were given seven trumpets. Another angel came and stood at the altar, This angel had a gold holder for incense. The angel was given much incense to offer, with the prayers of all God's holy people. The angel put this offering on the golden altar before the throne. The smoke from the incense went up from the angel's hand to God. The smoke went up with the prayers of God's people. Then the angel filled the incense holder with fire from the altar and threw it down on the earth. Then there were flashes of lightning, thunder, and other noises, and an earthquake. The first 4 trumpet blasts. Then the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets prepared to blow their trumpets. The first angel blew his trumpet. Then hail and fire mixed with blood was poured down on the earth, and a third of the earth and all the green grass and a third of the trees were burned up. The second angel blew his trumpet. Then something that looked like a big mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the created beings in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel blew his trumpet. Then a large star, burning like a torch, fell from the sky, and fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star was Bitterness, and a third of all the water became bitter. Many people died from drinking this bitter water. The fourth angel blew his trumpet. Then a third of the sun, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars were struck. So a third of them became dark. A third of the day and night was without light. While I watched, I heard an eagle that was flying high in the air. The eagle said in a loud voice,
Terrible! Terrible! How terrible for those who live on the earth! The terrible trouble will begin after the sound of the trumpets that the other 3 angels will blow.
The 5th trumpet begins the first terror. The 5th angel blew his trumpet. Then I saw a star fall from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the deep hole that leads down to the bottomless pit. Then the star opened the hole leading to the pit. Smoke came up from the hole like smoke from a big furnace. The sun and sky became dark because of the smoke from the hole. Then locusts came out of the smoke and went down into the earth. They were given the power to sting like scorpions. They were told not to damage the fields of grass or any plant or tree. They were to hurt only those who did not have God's mark on their foreheads. They were not given the power to kill them, but only to cause them pain for 5 months. Pain like a person feels when stung by a scorpion. During those days, people will look for a way to die, but they will not find it. They will want to die, but death will hide from them. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads, they wore something that looked like a gold crown. Their faces looked like human faces. Their hair was like women's hair. Their teeth were like lions' teeth. Their chests looked like iron breastplates. The sound their wings made was like the noise of many horses and chariots hurrying into battle. The locusts had tails with stingers like scorpions. The power they had to give people pain for 5 months was in their tails. They had a ruler who was the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon. In Greek, it is Apollyon. The first terror is now past. There are still 2 other terrors to come. Psalm 144, verses 9 through 15. God, I will sing a new song for you. I will play a 10-stringed harp and sing praise to you. You are the one who gives victory to kings. You saved your servant David from the sword of his enemy. Save me from these foreigners. They are all liars, even when they swear to tell the truth. May our sons be as strong as trees, and our daughters as beautiful as the carved pillars of a palace. May our barns be filled with crops of all kinds. May our sheep produce so many lambs that thousands of sheep will fill our fields. And may our cows be heavy with calves. May no enemy break through our walls or carry away any of our people. May there be no cries of pain in our streets. How wonderful it is for the people who receive these blessings. Yes, great blessings belong to the people who have the Lord as their God. Thank you, everyone. That was day 351. Join us for day 352. We will continue in the book of Ezra. The foundations, the construction of the temple are finally underway. But when the elderly priests see all the work being done, they seem to be making a loud noise. They seem to be crying. Some say they are shouts of joy as they are finally seeing the Lord's temple being rebuilt. And in the book of Revelation, John sees an incredible angel come down from heaven, and he asks John to do something very interesting. The angel gives John a tiny little scroll and asks him to eat it. We hope you enjoyed today's verses. Be sure to leave us a positive review and to share this podcast with your friends and family. Please join us for the next episode as we experience the Bible in 1 year.
Did you know we offer online courses in creative writing, literature, and web design? Visit us at storymaster.online to learn more.